Well, first of all, he has the flat tire,
Yeah, he gets
right?
flat tire
And
on the
then
way.
again, the bureaucrats, the police officer says, pull over there to the curb. And he pulls over as he's instructed to. And then another officer comes up and goes, do you realize this is a no parking zone and you parked at a red curb? He's like, well, I was instructed to. It doesn't matter why. Right? So now he's getting a traffic ticket.
Yeah,
In addition
from
to
two
everything.
cops at the same time.
Yeah, and he's bumping into cars. The people are pulling up behind him and wedging him in. He's just trying to get going.
Hi, welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm BJ Kang,
I'm Fred Satilli.
and the movie we're reviewing today is the 1935 film Man on the Flying Trapeze.
Yeah, this was Seinfeld before Seinfeld.
One man's misery is another man's laughter in this film, as this unlucky man suffers a truly awful series of unfortunate events.
That's right. And if you didn't have a day like this in your life, you haven't lived.
Yeah, I won't lie, it was funny, just the situation, the whole 24, 48-hour situation itself of a man just, unfortunate circumstance after another, after another, after another.
Super rapid fire jokes
Yeah.
and innovative stuff. This is 1935, right? Adolf Zucker presents. This was before World War II. They didn't know about Hitler when they watched this movie. This is like the last guy that could be called Adolf, right? Now, I'll tell you something. We have an expression that we use now commonly, and that's stuff happens,
Yeah.
right? And in this movie, he goes through this incredible sequence, and they say, Wolfinger, why are you late? And he goes, things happen. And even when I was young, when I was like 10 years old, I adopted that things happen.
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's become shit happens,
Yeah. So the movie starts off with this whole, sort of funny situation of two burglars who break into a cellar, get drunk off his Applejack.
You missed the whole beginning. The whole, he's got to deal with his wife. And she says, come to bed and turn off the light. Right?
Yeah.
And he's drinking. He's drinking Applejack, right?
Yeah.
But he's in the bathroom drinking, and he's got his toothbrush. He's like brushing the wall to sound like she says, are you sure you're brushing his teeth? And her acting is so stilted. You called it operatic in another one of these things where she says, like, please come to bed and turn off the light.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm coming, dear. Yes, and turn off the light. She's insufferable. So here's this guy. He's got the insufferable wife, right? And she just to show you how insufferable she is, at breakfast she reads this poem. And she says, here's a poem by this wonderful poet. And then she gets the paper and she says, we have what we have not. What we have not, we have. We have light when there's dark, and when it's dark, we have light.
My fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is, I should say, unknown.
We gotta take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right, and that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
So finally, he does come to bed, and no sooner he turns off the light, go ahead then. Now you.
And so once they finally get to bed, some robbers or burglars break into their cellar and they get drunk off their kegs or barrels of Applejack, and then they start singing tunes down there in the cellar.
Yeah, the Wabash.
Yeah.
Right? The banks of the Wabash far away. And the funny thing about the criminals is each one of them came separately.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they came separately was because the guy who sent them to do the job erroneously sent both of them separately. He says, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm here stealing the silverware." He goes, "Oh, like Lefty sent me to do that."
Yeah.
He goes, "What's the matter with him? He's losing it." Right? So they get that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they see that he's making his homemade liquor.
Yeah.
So they start drinking it. Now, one of my favorite things, when he comes down and he wants to start drinking it, he just knocks the tap right off the barrel and puts a glass in. He goes, "We filled it up Jersey style." Right? So it's a New Jersey joke.
Yeah. That was one aspect that was kind of like interesting to me, at least the comedy of it, was that this is during Prohibition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
I was like, to me, the humor behind, there's a lot of history behind the humor. It's really a period piece, especially with little references like that there.
Totally awesome.
Yeah. So that was enjoyable to me. Some of the humor was lost on me. It was like the insufferable wife sort of humor. That one, I don't know. That one probably didn't age very well with me, probably because
Well, the insufferable wife, once again, she says to him, it's a man's role to face the guys with the gun, right?
Yeah.
Go in the cellar and do this. He says, "Well, let me call the police." So he dials the number, and the first one's a wrong number.
Yeah.
And it's a woman. And she says, "Who's that woman on the phone, and why did you call her?" You know, which is unreasonable. That's like such a woman reaction, right? There's robbers in the basement. Now you're going to focus on this. Really?
I feel like there's the man has a similar reaction to that as well when she wakes him up and says there's burglars singing in our cellar, and he goes, "What song?"
Yeah, right. And he goes, "My God, what a miserable voice." And his voice is worse than anybody's.
Yeah.
So the policeman comes, and they go down in the cellar, and now the policeman starts to drink the Applejack. And now he's delighted because he wants to drink the Applejack. So
Yeah.
the four of them are doing this, and they all start singing the Wabash.
It's a quartet.
Right. They start singing it. So then the cop says, "Oh, I have to take." W.C. Field says, "Well, we'll let him go if they promise never to do this again." And the cop says, "Oh no, I have to take him in. That's my bread and butter, right? I have to take him in." So they bring the guys to the police station, and they call the judge at 5:00 in the morning. And what does the judge do?
The judge gives him a charge for illegal alcohol distillation. He
Right. Do
doesn't
you have a license to make Applejack?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you don't understand. We're here because these guys are robbing the house. You made Applejack without a license. 30 days or $30.
Yeah.
And he's in his pajamas. It's 5:00 at night.
Yeah.
And he puts him in jail. Right. And this is the legal system for you. Right. This is relevant today. It's like somebody breaks into your house and you shoot him. It's like you discharged a firearm in Los Angeles. It's like there were 6 guys with guns that came through the window. It's like, and then you illegally shot them.
Yeah.
And you end up in trouble, right? And they go free. And that's exactly what happened in that scene in this movie.
Yeah.
So the court calls the house and they say he's in jail or whatever. And that's when you really get a grip on the people that he's living with. So he's a working man with a job,
Yeah.
but he's a widower, and he has a daughter who loves him. And there she is in the picture, and what a beautiful girl she was, right? A beautiful young girl, really sharp, mentally sharp. She's out there working in the working world. But he's also supporting his wife, his wife's mother, and his wife's brother.
Yes, I believe his brother-in-law. Yeah.
Right. And they're useless. That young man he hasn't had a job in 8 years, and he takes a nap after breakfast, and his mother dotes on him, right? So this guy's got to put up with. He's got the wonderful daughter, but his wife is hard to deal with. Mother-in-law is impossible to deal with, and the other character is just a mess, right? And the mess kid is relentless. He's always riding them. He doesn't appreciate this.
Yeah.
The daughter says, he's been nothing but kind to you, and you've been nothing but nasty to him. Oh, he's a drunken old man. He's stupid. He's useless and everything. Meanwhile, this guy's supporting everybody.
Yeah.
So for me, this is a big subject, right? You know, and Archie Bunker had the same problem. You know who Archie Bunker is?
No.
Okay, there was a TV show called All in the Family, and this was a guy who worked.
Archie Bunker is one great American.
And he had a wife, and he had a daughter, and the daughter married a college student and moved him into the house. And the college student was like a real lefty, and it wasn't real life too. And Archie Bunker was a real like white middle-class man that worked at the docks. You know, was a warehouse guy or something. And the young man did nothing but antagonize him. Now, as a young man, I identified with him. And I told my father, look, here's the young man, he's antagonizing the old guy. And my father said, yeah, someday you'll be that guy. He's the only guy working, and everybody's living off of him, and they don't respect him, and they don't. It was the same dynamic here. Mm-hmm. So this must have happened a lot in America. So nobody wants to get him out of jail. His daughter goes down at 5 o'clock in the morning, and she's got $30, which is a lot in those years. That'd be like $3,000 now.
Yeah,
she's going to get him out of jail, and she gets him out of jail. The minute he lays down, the alarm clock goes off, and he has to get up and go to work.
Yeah,
right. Things happen.
Yeah.
Now, all this guy wanted to do was go to the wrestling matches, right?
Wrestling.
And in those days, there were just these big fat guys, right? The big Russian bear guy.
Yeah.
And then the guy he was rooting for, his name was Misha Bob. Mm-hmm. And when he went to work, he said to his secretary, said to him, you mind if I have the afternoon off? I want to go to the wrestling matches. And he says, oh, that's interesting. And she says, yeah, my father went to high school with Hookalaka Mishabab. And he goes, Hookalaka, never knew Mishabab's first name. That's just so funny.
And so he tells him that he tells his boss, he makes up a lie, that his mother-in-law died of bad liquor.
But he doesn't say she died of bad liquor. He just says she died.
He gave her, a chill came over her. He gave her a drink, and then his boss makes the assumption that bad liquor killed her.
Bad liquor, another bad liquor.
Yeah.
Right? This is, like you said, prohibition. Yeah. Somebody died from bad liquor. People don't even understand that now, right? Yeah. Bad liquor.
And so, and then, I guess to kind of skip ahead, but that is a startup of a joke that sort of takes place later where everyone thinks that his mother-in-law died. I mean, one aspect that really stood out to me was that he said, tell the press that his mother-in-law died. I don't know why that was newsworthy to have maybe.
Well, it goes to show you what a small town was. So he says to the stenographic pool, the guy comes out and says, flowers and letters of condolence should be sent to the house. And he tells him the address, and he says, call the paper and put an announcement that Mrs. Nesselrode passed away. Yeah, let's do this right. Let's honor our fellow employee, his poor dead mother-in-law. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that she said, lips that touch liquor will never touch mine. Now she's in the paper that she died of drinking, right?
Yeah.
So it was a real irony there.
Yeah.
Now, in the meantime, this guy's still out in the world trying to get things done.
Yeah. He's just trying to go to the wrestling match.
Well, first of all, he has the flat tire.
Yeah, he gets flat tire on the way.
Again, the bureaucrats, the police officer says, pull over there to the curb. And he pulls over, as he's instructed to. And then another officer comes up and goes, do you realize this is a no parking zone and you parked at a red curb? He's like, well, I was instructed to. It doesn't matter why. Right, so now he's getting a traffic ticket.
Yeah,
in addition
to two cops at the same time.
Yeah, and he's bumping into cars. The people are pulling up behind him and wedging him in. He's just trying to get going, and he's got to change the tire. And while he's talking to these cops and everything, the spare tire rolls down the hill. So he's got to go chase the tire. That was a funny scene.
Yeah,
right. He's running and running and running. And Godfrey Daniels.
You have some use of really, really old green screen, which was
incredible. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and he used to say Godfrey Daniels. That was in all of his movies.
I didn't really get that part where he screams out Godfrey Daniels as an explicit.
In those days, you couldn't say profanity.
Uh-huh.
So instead of saying God damn it, you had to say something that was,
Yeah.
So people used to say Jesus H. Christ, so it wouldn't be our Jesus, right? It would be somebody else,
I believe the H stands for holy.
Darn it was,
Yeah.
People said those kind of things. So he had that going on. Mm-hmm. All these things, the poor guy. Well, he has a front row ticket for the wrestling match.
Except it was stolen by his brother-in-law.
That's right.
Yeah.
That little bastard went through his pockets and he stole the ticket. And of course, the daughter realizes this. She loves her father.
Yeah.
She doesn't like seeing him abused by these people.
I thought that was like sort of that was a heart touching moment to me, was the
Sure.
relationship between the father, especially because it's like revealed that that is the daughter from his first wife, because this is
That's
his
right.
yeah.
And she, in the touching moment, she says, "Look, Dad, I know that you married that woman so that I would grow up with a mother and not just, with you and everything." And he says, "Don't you ever say that again. Where did you get an idea like that?"
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "I heard you tell, Mr. Malloy," or whatever his name was. She says, "I heard him tell you that." He goes, I must have been drinking."
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, "No, Dad, you weren't drinking."
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, wow. And he's like, all right, well, the two of them have that moment. He knows, she knows, and she knows, you know what I mean, that she's old enough now, and that comes out.
Yeah.
So he tries to go to the wrestling matches and just buy a general admission ticket. But once again, things happen, right? And because he's looking through a hole in the wall in the wrestling match, the line goes past him, and when it's his turn, the window closes. He can't get a ticket.
Mm-hmm.
And now, when Hukalaka Mishabab throws the Russian bear out of the ring, he's standing in the door and he knocks him down on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And he's laying in the gutter now, right? And remember, his secretary went.
Yeah.
So she comes running out. And she's like, oh my God, this is my boss. And she's trying to help him. Now, the kid who stole the ticket and is in the first row,
Yeah.
he comes out and he goes, look at him lying drunk in the gutter. He took his secretary from work to the match. Right? He goes home and tells them.
Yeah.
He went to the match and he took his secretary. Right?
Yeah. And this is probably my favorite part of the whole movie here, which is like, because this whole movie you see, what's his name, Mr. Ambrose, get beaten on.
Ambrose Wolfinger.
Yeah, he continues to have these like really horrible, like things happen to him and mishaps. It just feels like it's just the joke's on him. And this is like the one heroic moment he sort of has in the whole movie, where he's telling the brother-in-law, he's saying the brother-in-law's a liar, and then his daughter speaks up and says, like, I'm not going to just stand here while you talk, bad about my dad. And then the brother-in-law says, you better be quiet before I slap you. And then without hesitation, Ambrose just goes, wham, like...
That's right.
Yeah, it just knocks him out flat.
You can say anything to me, but you're going to slap my daughter? Yeah.
And then he goes to swing at the mother-in-law.
Yeah, right.
That part cracked me up, because because he hits the brother-in-law, and then he immediately starts swinging after the mother-in-law. Right. And then his wife
finish off the whole family.
His second wife and the mother-in-law go behind the door, and he says, I'll knock them all out, all three of them I'll knock out.
Right, yeah.
And then to really put the nail in the coffin there, he grabs one of the the wreaths, that they gave for the
rest
funeral.
In peace.
Yeah, he grabs and he throws it, the rest in peace one, on the knocked out brother. Yeah. And that was my favorite part of the film there.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
It's so important, because there's an appropriate time. And we reviewed the movie Laura. Mm-hmm. And it was the same thing there. Vincent Price is needle in the cop. The cop's taking it. He can take anything. Sticks and stones, right? Say what you want, right? But when Vincent Price said something bad about Laura, boom! He didn't even hesitate, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to talk about my lady. You just say anything you want about me, but there's a boundary here, and you crossed it. So I like it in both of those movies where they have that. That's appropriate behavior if you're a man. And another thing I really liked was when he was at work, and he had a secretary and he had a wall of filing cabinets, but what he was the memory expert, the information expert. He was the IT guy, really, right? At a finance company.
Yeah.
And he had the dossier on everybody all the clients. So the boss said, I need to know about this client. And nobody could find the information. So they went to his desk, and it was just a giant jumble of papers in this roll-top desk. Yeah. And he went with his fingers down the pile, and he lifted one up, and he pulled a piece of paper way out, and here it is. Here's the info. And the guy goes, so this is the famous Wolfinger filing system. And he says, so what do you call this? And he goes, job security. Yeah. And then they fired him for lying about going to the wrestling match and stuff, but then they realized they couldn't live without him.
Yep.
And then my favorite moment in the movie comes. His wife throws him out. He's living in a little apartment now with his daughter because of all this. Mm-hmm. His His wife throws him out, and the phone rings, and it's his company. They want to hire him back. But he doesn't answer the phone. His daughter answers the phone, and she's sharp.
She starts negotiating.
She says, "Oh, he can't come. He can't come down today. He's got an interview with the woolen mill. They're offering him,
$100.
25% more money and
Yeah.
vacation days and all this. And they're, tell him to come down. You can't. We just gave him 4 weeks off, and and so they get more money.
Yeah.
They get more money. He gets a better life, and then he is moved away from his wife and his sister.
Yeah.
Now she tells the useless young man, "She's you 8 years you haven't worked. You got to get up and go out and get a job now, right? We can't sponge off of this guy anymore. We threw him out." So it's pretty cool that that's the case, right? They threw the breadwinner out, and now they're in trouble. So the wife regrets it, that she lost her husband over this.
Yeah.
She knows that it was wrong circumstances, and she overreacted and everything. And she says, he offered to take us for a drive in his new car, right? You should speak well of him. He was kind enough to offer to take us for a drive in the new car. And that's shall I do the spoiler? I mean,
Yeah, go for it.
I don't think I will. Watch the movie. Watch the movie, The Man on the Flying Trapeze. I think it's a masterpiece of commentary on life. It's a nonstop comedy. If it's 100 minutes, it's 100 jokes. Every line in the thing is either a joke or a setup for the next joke.
It's only an hour long, actually. It's only like an hour and 5 minutes long.
I thought it was an hour and a half.
No, it's only like an hour long.
They got
fairly
a
short.
lot. They got a lot in.
Fairly short, yeah.
They were really good at that in those days. Getting a lot in. They moved the story along really quickly, and it's really a masterpiece. In the beginning, I said Seinfeld before Seinfeld, and it really was. Jerry Seinfeld, the most successful comedian probably of all times, he learned a real lot from Abbott and Costello and told about that in something called Seinfeld's Comedy College. And when this movie was made, this stuff was innovated. This could have been literally, you say it was only an hour long, you could have literally made this into like 30 Seinfeld episodes. This was that really small time problems and what do you do and look what happened and look at the circumstances we're stuck with and all this cause and effect. Really imaginative for the time. And you have to remember, I saw this movie in the 60s, right? So they didn't have Seinfeld yet.
Yeah.
They didn't even, this was, even then, this was very, very clever, lots of cliches. He invented things happen, and I enjoyed it all the way then. I've seen it many times. I think it still holds up now. It might be hard for a guy like you to watch a black and white movie. I know our producer doesn't enjoy that especially.
Yeah.
She's over there laughing. But it doesn't detract from it to me, the fact that it's not in color. I give the movie a 10. I wonder, how do you really feel? Go ahead.
I thought like a lot of the humor in it was classic humor is the best way to really describe it. There's, lots of situational, ironic. There's definitely elements of slapstick. One joke I especially liked was when he told the wife, I'm gonna creep up slowly to the door and I'll listen on the other, I'll talk to him to the other side. And he trips he snags himself on the carpet and just completely tumbles through the door and falls down the stairs and his gun goes off, and he sits on a nail. It was like, that was all very slapstick there. And that part was definitely fun to me there. Honestly, I would give it only a 7 in my opinion. It's an enjoyable movie. I don't think it's like, a must see. I thought it was enjoyable for an hour. I think with that kind of jokes, it was a perfect runtime for that kind of humor as well as, the story. So I think an hour was perfect. I did think that, it was a nice character arc, or not character arc, but a nice just sort of story arc there that kind of, started and concluded nicely. And so I thought that for a movie of its time, it was enjoyable. I wouldn't have watched it on my own.
No, I wouldn't imagine you would. And I don't know that a lot of people, watching the Real Generation Gap would have, ever come across this either.
Yeah.
But this is why I recommend it.
Yeah. Thank you for watching The Real Generation Gap. And we once again like to thank you for joining us on this episode. Let us know in the comments down below. What's the oldest movie you've ever watched? For me, this was definitely it. 1935. Oldest movie I've ever watched for sure. But yeah, let us know down in the comments below what the oldest movie you've ever seen was, and let us know as well if you thought this movie was funny.
Let them recommend one.
Yeah, go ahead and recommend one. Make sure to join us again, and once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us.